What's up, guys? So, it's been a while since we've read some Rufus Raine and the American Witch, so that is what I'm going to do right now. A little late night reading, so to say. So, let's just get that pulled up, put my face up here. And actually, that's kind of small, but whatever. Make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so we were on tutoring and Pineling. That was the next chapter. I think you can hear me okay because the microphone's right there. So, let's just get right to it. It was November 5th, and Violet and I still hadn't talked since the night of the Halloween party, and every time I tried to approach her, she'd walk away from me. I decided to let her calm down from whatever she was so upset about and give her some space. Ever since the Halloween party, Alexander and I had been spending time together. We'd sit together during lunch and hang out after class, usually near the Black Lake or the Quidditch pitch. The Gryffindors didn't mind us hanging out, but Slytherins would death stare us whenever we hung out. I didn't have any romantic feelings for Alex. I just enjoyed his company. We both shared a love for Quidditch, and we both had similar upbringings. Alex was a pureblood who didn't know much about muggles before he came to Hogwarts, so we enjoyed discussing our initial reactions to numerous muggle things. Today was my first tutoring lesson with Professor Raine. He paced the room as he started talking. The Patronus charm is one of the most powerful defensive charms known to wizard kind. It is an immensely complicated and extremely difficult spell that evokes a positive energy force known as a Patronus, he said. I sighed. Professor, I've already learned this information. The execution of the charm is what I'm having trouble with, I informed him. I was leaning on my hand as I sat in his classroom, bored out of my mind. He stopped pacing the room and turned to face me as he said, All right then. He paused and looked and took a deep breath. Wait. He paused and took a deep breath. To successfully cast a spell, one begins by mustering the happiest memory they can think of. The happier the memory, the better the charm will work. Think of your happiest memory and attempt to cast the charm. I stood up in my seat and began to think of the first Quidditch game I had ever attended. It was in March. The air was chilly, and I was wearing a yellow sweater with red flowers on it. My mom had knitted the sweater for me a while back. I was so excited my dad kept explaining to me what was happening because everything was so quick. With the memory in mind, I attempted to cast the spell. Expecto Patronum. I said the words and did the correct wand motions, but nothing was happening. Of course, this memory wouldn't work. They had kicked me out and told me I was despicable. All of my memories of them have been corrupted, I realized. I tried 2 more times before stopping. What memory were you think? Oh, wait, that's Professor Raine. What memory were you thinking of? asked Professor Raine. I didn't want to tell him my personal memory, but I needed his help. It's a childhood memory. It involves my parents. But I think it's not working because right now my parents and I aren't really on speaking terms. I was sort of kicked out by them, I said, while avoiding eye contact out of shame. He was silent for a minute before he responded. I see. Can you think of a better memory? Preferably one that hasn't been ruined, he asked. I shook my head no. None of my memories were powerful enough for the charm. He took out his wand. Perhaps you need a demonstration. Expecto Patronum. Suddenly white wisps of light came out of his wand, forming in the shape of a white tiger. I watched in amazement as the tiger moved around the room. I had seen Patronuses before, but none quite as beautiful as his. It moved around swiftly and elegantly before Raine put down his wand and it disappeared into the air. What memory is powerful enough to form that? I thought, before asking him what the memory was. He seemed taken aback by the question and stuttered for a few seconds before answering. It was the first time I ever showed magical abilities. I was 10, and my parents were convinced I was a squib. My parents are both wizards, and I grew up surrounded by magic, so when I wasn't able to do it, I felt like an outsider, like I like I didn't belong. This, that's what makes this memory so happy. He had just shared some really personal information with me. It felt so wrong to know such private details about him. I kept practicing the charm, and afterwards, Professor Raine helped me improve my runes. So, same chapter, but Professor Raine's point of view. Monroe. Let me situate. My neck's bothered me. Okay. Monroe had just entered the classroom for our first tutoring session. I began to inform her on the background of the Patronus charm. This information is quite useful and can help in many situations, but Monroe had her mind set on a practical lesson as she said, "Professor, I've already learned this information, and the execution of the charm is what I'm having trouble with." I asked her to think of the happiest memory and attempt to cast the Patronus charm, but she failed even to make a non-corporal one. Her face began to show frustration. She had informed me that all of her happy memories had been ruined as her relationship with the people involved had gone bad. "Perhaps you need a demonstration. Expecto Patronum." I spoke my wand swiftly produced my Patronus, a white tiger. Monroe seemed to be in awe of it, watching its movements as if she were hypnotized. I'd say I was surprised by her reaction, but I'd be wrong. My Patronus is quite impressive, so it made sense that she was amazed. She turned to me and asked excitedly, "What memory were you thinking of?" I hesitated for a moment. The memory I had used to cast the charm was personal. I wasn't sure whether I should tell her or not. Maybe this information can help her, as an example of what type of memory to think of. I thought, and revealed to her what my memory was. I had never told anyone this, not even Jason. Jason? Okay, I don't know who Jason is. People assume that because both of my parents are wizards, that magic came easily to me. I never told anyone about it because I was embarrassed for a while that my parents considered me to be a squib. The rest of the lesson was spent on practicing the charm and helping her improve her ancient runes. Professor Whittle, shout out Professor Whittle, what? Had told me that Monroe tended to lose focus during her class. After finishing up the lessons, I headed back to my living quarters. As I walked past Darling's office, I heard two voices coming from inside. Peeking through the slightly open door, I saw Professor Pine and Darling embracing each other in a hug. "I'm so glad we finally got to talk about this," Darling said shyly. "Me too," me too, responded Pine, and they kissed momentarily. I could feel my heart break ever so slightly. He won. He got her, I realized. I left before they could notice me standing there. I was trying to understand how I felt, but I couldn't process it. I entered my living quarters and went straight to bed. Needless to say, I didn't get much sleep that night. So that is the end of Pineling and the first tutoring session. And the next chapter is Hogsmeade Disaster. So hopefully we'll do more of these soon. I know that a lot of you guys have been asking me to finish the story. Of course, you can always read ahead, but apparently you really like me reading them. Maybe it's the voices, which I don't think they're good. But anyway, hope you guys have a great night or morning whenever you're watching this, or afternoon, whatever. I'm actually going to bed, so peace out.